In this video, we're going to do an example to demonstrate reading and writing data with a CSV file. We're going to solve this problem. This says, design a program that prompts the user to enter words or the word quit to end. As the user enters the word, save each word in a CSV file named words.csv. When the user quits, just echo the contents of that file to the console using a read loop. Okay. So we're gonna prompt the user. They're gonna enter words. We're gonna save each word into a CSV file. So we're gonna have a while loop for that. And then when the user enters quit, we're just gonna have another while loop that uses the read logic, and we'll just echo the contents of the file back to the console. Okay, so let's get started. So we're gonna come to JDoodle. This will just be a single file examples because we're not gonna have a class. We're just gonna do a simple example here to learn about file IO. Okay, here's my file. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my of all the boilerplate stuff here. Okay, a couple of imports we're going to need. The scanner. We won't need an array list on this one. We're going to also need to import all of our file objects. So in this case, we can do java.io.file. We can do import java.io.file writer. Import java.io.buffered writer. And then we want to do the readers. Import java.io.file reader. And we're going to import java.io.buffered reader. Okay. It is useful to note here. We also want the IO exception. So we want to do import java.io.io exception. Okay. So that we can catch those. Now that's a lot of imports. It is notable that you can just import the whole java.io library here using this java.io.star.asterisk. And so that will import all of everything in the java.io library. That works. It is, depending on what your program is doing, it can cause problems because in this case, we've been explicit about what we want to use. So we only want to use these objects, right? If I import the java.io.star, then I get everything that's defined there, which is hundreds of classes. And so in that case, if I make a mistake and I begin to use the wrong object, then I won't get I won't necessarily get an error. And it might be harder for my code for me to debug my code. So you can do this, but it is a shortcut that can lead to problems. It's better, in my opinion, particularly at this point in your coding career, to be explicit about what you're doing so that it's easier to correct errors. Okay, so now we want to we want to read. We're going to prompt the user to enter words, and we're going to write those into a file. So the first thing we want to do is declare our file name. I'm going to declare it as in a variable, and actually I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this differently because I'm going to declare it as a constant in my class. So instead of declaring it as a field in my main method, I'm going to declare a constant value in my class. And this is a constant value because the file name isn't never going to change, right? So I want to make sure that it's always the same. So I'm going to call that public static, and I'm going to call it final, and it's going to be a string, and it's going to be, and then we use the uppercase nomenclature like that, and we're going to call it okay. Now, a note here in JDoodle, we have to use this folder called My Files. Okay, that's a requirement in JDoodle. This is where the data is going to be. That's just the way JDoodle has implemented reading and writing from CSV files in your program. In if you're using your own computer, maybe using NetBeans or Visual Studio or some other IDE on your computer, then you can use whatever file path you want here. That's up to you. But for JDoodle, this is how it will work. if you're using a different IDE, a different development tool, then you have a little more control over the CSV files for what you want to do. But in our example, we're just going to follow the JDoodle examples. Okay, so now I have my file name is declared. Let's go ahead and declare the scanner. Done that before. So now we have a scanner. Now we're going to do a keep going loop because we're going to prompt for data until the word quit. And then we're going to say, well, keep going. I'm going to prompt for the data. Remember, I'm keeping my brackets in place, my open and closing curly braces as I'm going. I'm being very careful to keep all that neat and in line. So then we do a little prompt to tell the user what we want to do. Enter a word or quit to exit. Okay. We'll just do a print on that so that it'll be all in one line. And then let's prompt for the data, prompt word equals scanner dot next line. Okay, so now we have the words. Okay. If it's quit, if word dot equals ignore case quit, then we want to keep going. It's false. Oops, made a spelling mistake up here. This should be word. Keep going equals false. Otherwise, we want to go ahead and write it to the file. Okay. So that will be the else there. So then, so let's go ahead and just try this. Just to make sure we haven't made any mistakes. Enter word 1, 2, quit. Okay. Okay, so that works. So now we want to write to the file. To write to the file, we want to put this while loop. We want to put it into inside the try catch block for the writer. Okay, so let's start a new line here. So we're gonna write a try catch block and we're gonna indent this while loop. So try, and then we're gonna create the writer var writer. The data type of the writer is going to be a buffered writer, but we can use the var shorthand there. Buffered writer. Whoops, let's try that again. Var writer equals new buffered writer. And it takes one parameter, which is a new file writer. And that takes one parameter, which is a new file. And that takes one parameter, which is the file name. Okay. And there's no semicolon there because this is the definition of a try block. Okay. And then we can say catch here. Catch IO exception. And we'll just print out on system.out.print line. Error for opening for right. Okay. And then we can do the stack trace. So if the file does not exist, then this creating the buffered writer will create the file for us. So if the file is not already there, we'll create a new one. If the file is there and it has data in it, when we create this writer, it's going to erase the data. Okay, so just be aware of that, every time you open a file to write, if there's file in it, it's going to be erased. You can modify that by putting here on the file writer, you can put an extra parameter here on the file writer that says that opens it for append. But in our examples, we're just going to write, we're going to erase whatever data is in it. So we want to move this while block because it needs to be inside the try block. And then we want to indent that. So I'm just highlighting that, and then I press the tab key and it indents everything. Okay, so now we have a try catch block. Inside the try catch block, so the try catch block opens the file to write, and then we can see the data here and we're going to be writing the data. So After we prompt the word, we can just say writer.append, and we append the word, and then that's going to, so now we've written data into the file, okay? All right. And we need to put a new line character in here, so we need to add the new line there. So if we don't put the new line in, then all the words will just be on one row in the file, and we want them on independent rows. We don't need a comma because there's only one field. So in this case, even though we're using a CSV format, there's no commas because there's only one field. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and run that and see what happens. I made an error. Line 29. What error did I make? Let's see. Made a mistake. Catch IO exception. Oh, I left out the parentheses on print stack trace. There we go. Well, that took a long time to figure out. So print stack trace is a method, so you have to use the parentheses here. So that's what happened on my error. So then let's run. Okay, so the file is open. We can write words. We'll say 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we'll quit. So now the data has been written to my file. Now I can't see the file. In JDoodle, the file will then show up here under this generated files tab. So over here on the input output panel on the right, we can click on generated files and we can see the file. This was created because we used here on line 12, we used my files words.csv. So JDoodle is creating that file for us right here. In order to see what's in this, we have to download it. So I can click on the little download icon. The file is then downloaded and then open it on I can open it and take a look at what's there. So I'm using a Mac, so I'm just going to open it using the text editor, and we can see what it looks like. Okay, so here on the we should be able to see that the file is now words.csv now has 3 rows in it, 1, 2, 3. That's the data that we put in. Okay, let's close that. Okay, let's look at the CSV file again, because I think I didn't have the share screen correct. So if we look at I can open the CSV file in any editor. I'm on a Mac, I'm just using text edit. You can do this in Visual Studio, Notepad, whatever you have. So we can see that the file here is called words.csv. This is the one I downloaded by clicking here on this download button. And then it's got the 3 rows in it, 1, 2, 3, that I wrote. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. So now what we want to do is we're going to do the read loop. So we're just going to open the file to read it and just echo back onto the command line, onto the console what was there. Because see, this is what we had. We entered the 3 words, but we didn't really get any verification that the data was being written. So let's go ahead and write the logic to read the file. So we're going to do that with a try catch block. It's going to look just like this one on line 17, but instead of writer, it's going to be a reader. Try var reader. Oops, let me go back. I missed one thing here. Before I start that, I need to make sure that I close the file, so that I close the writer. So here, my while loop is ending, so I want to make sure that here that I do writer.close. Okay, that's very important. Okay. Okay, so now let's do the reader. So try var reader equals new buffered reader. Takes one parameter, which is a new file reader, which takes one parameter, which is a new file, which takes one parameter, which is the file name. This is why I declared a constant, so that I have a file name where I can just set it in one place and I don't have to type that file path more than once and risk making an error. So there's my try catch. Let's go ahead and put the catch in. I can say catch IO exception. Let's go ahead and do, let's catch 2 errors. So we'll catch the file not found first. We'll just do that as an example. File not found exception. Okay, and it'll be called E. And here we'll just say, and we'll say print line not find file. Okay. Then we can do a second catch for all the other exceptions. And this one we'll do system.out.println, an error occurred reading, and then we'll do the stack case. Okay. Okay, so that should work. So as we read, so now we have the blocks. We actually want to do a little logic in there to actually do the read. So what we want to do here is we want to declare the string data that we're going to read. We'll just call it row. We'll just declare that variable, and then we'll do the while loop. You need to declare because remember, a while loop is a special assignment and a assignment operator and a Boolean expression. So we have to declare row outside of that because it's a compounded statement. So we do row equals reader dot read line. That's lowercase r, sorry about that. And it's a method, so it takes that, and then you say here, while that not equal to null. So as long as that's not null, not returning null, then we know we've read data from the file. Okay. There's a lot of parentheses going on in here, so make sure that you keep your parentheses and your brackets clean. Okay. Now we can just echo that. So now what we do with the data, we've read it. So when we process it in some way, put it into a class. In this case, we're just going to echo it to the console. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and run that. Now we should note that we've already put 3 rows in our file. We did 1, 2, 3, and those are sitting in the file right now in words.csv. But because we have the writer, when we open that, it's going to erase the data in that because we're opening the writer and erasing all the data in the file. So we can, so when we come back, we're not going to see that 1, 2, 3 in the file. We made a spelling mistake. Spelling mistake is on line 41. I just misspelled out. So I'll say line 1, line 2, and we'll quit, and we should see three rows, 3 words that get echoed back to us. Okay, there we go. Now we can, if we go in, we file again, where's that CSV? Now when we download it and look at that file, we'll see that it, when we open it with our text editor, we'll see that it has the new data, line 1, line 2, line 3 in there. Okay. Now, what if we wanted to keep the data instead of erasing it? We just wanted to add more data to it. Well, you can do that by adding here to the file writer. This has this one parameter, which is the new file name. If we come in here and we say comma true, this is the second parameter on the file writer creation. What this will do is it will actually preserve the data, and it will just open the file and start writing to the end of it. So now if we execute, we will see that the file, if we write line 4, line 5, then we should, line 1, 2, and 3 should still be there. Oh, but they're not. It's because we made an error somewhere in here. Well, we'll come back to that. So we're not going to do that in our class anyway. So here we have reading and writing to the file. Now the generated file on JDoodle, the generated file will disappear when you load your program again. So meaning that if you leave JDoodle and you come back to JDoodle and start working on your program again, your generated file will not be there. That is not the case if you're using a different IDE like NetBeans or something like that on your own computer. But in JDoodle, these generated files that are made by your program will not be saved with the rest of your code. So when you come in and save your program here, the generated file will not be present again. So if we just put our echo words here. Okay. So when that's saved, so when I come back and reload this, if I exit this, so there's a generated file now. If I exit this and I go back to my console or to my JDoodle, I look at my projects. We can see the echo words with CSV. This is the one we just wrote. When we open that, the generated files may not be there. So in this case it is, but in certain cases it will no longer be present. So just be aware of that as you're working on your code, that this generated file may be deleted between different instances of your JDoodle experience. Okay, so that's it for this example. We'll do another example in a subsequent video.